So hi everybody, welcome to today's webinar where we're talking a little bit about Creo assembly drawings, and we'll focus on the beginners side of things. So we're going to keep it really basic today. So just quickly the agenda, what we'll be discussing today. So you all received this in the invitation. So I'll do a quick introduction about about boundary systems. Then I've prepared a few slides on the drawing side of things, and then we'll jump into Creo and we'll create some drawings, and I'll show you some neat stuff we can do in Creo. Okay, so just a little bit about myself. So my name is Pierre Venter. I'm a boundary systems technical specialist. I've been working with Creo and e.t.c products for about 10 years now. So a little bit about boundary systems. So these are some of the icons or logos rather from the customers that we serve. I think just want to highlight our capabilities at the bottom of the slide. So we help them with product lifecycle management, data management, CAD design and consulting. We also help them with simulation and product development. So some of our major accreditations, so important ones here I think is the e.t.c thing. So we're a e.t.c Platinum partner. We're also Windchill certified implementers, e.t.c preferred service provider, and then we also do certified training for Creo, Windchill, MathCAD, and e.t.c. Yeah, so just another quick slide about some of the solutions we offer. e.t.c being the main one, but then we've got Tacton in there, we've got Keyshot, Maxim, Moldex, ZWCAD, so a whole range of solutions we offer. Okay, and then we get to the stuff we're all here for, and that's the drawings. So I think if you understand the process and how we approach how you should be creating drawings and how you should get that information to somebody that will need it. There's basically three phases. So the first one will be the configuration phase. So that's where you create drawing formats, you set up templates, you work with your config.pro files, and with your drawing detail file. So it's all on the admin side of things, but if a normal user understands this bit, then it can always go back to administrators and tell them or ask them about templates and things like that. So keep in mind, you don't need one template, you don't have one format, you don't have one config file. There are many, and you can mix and match them with whatever product you're busy with. Let's say, for instance, if you're working with sheet metal products, you want a certain configuration. If you're working with plastic injection parts, you want a specific configuration. So then that configuration phase is very important, and it will make your life a lot easier as soon as you start creating your drawings. Okay. If we go to the second phase, then that's the drawing initiation phase. Okay, so this is now where everything is set up. You've got your config files, you've got your templates and formats and all of that all fixed up. Then you need to go and actually initiate that drawing. So how would you do that? If it's just a quick thing, you want to print out for somebody, you can just slap it onto a blank piece of paper, print a few views with a few critical dimensions. I mean, that's a quick thing. Nobody's doing it like that anymore. Most of our customers, or let's say all of our customers, will use a certain template with a certain format. Okay. Then it will select the appropriate template or format, and then it will go to the drawing creation phase, where you actually start placing model views specific to a product, not part of the template, adding dimensions, tolerances, extra information with nodes, geometrical tolerances, datum planes, maybe you might need to draw additional lines. There's capability for that in Creo, just to make a part or segment maybe more clearer to the viewer. And I think that's where I want to focus a little bit today. I'm going to talk about the drawing formats and the drawing templates and how important they are. But then we're going to go into the drawing creation phase, where you need to place dimensions, add symbols and things like that. So if we go to the next slide, just something quickly on the drawing format. So you need to understand what we see as a drawing format, and that what you see there is basically it. So you will specify a sheet size. So if you have a size C or D or A4 or A3 or A0, you will have a format for each specific paper size. Okay? So if you create one, it's easy to take those tables and things and move it to a different one. Very easy to do that, and I'll set up my or I'll show you my contact information in the last slide. So if you need any help with things like that, you can just drop me a mail. Also, will it be portrait or landscape? So these are things that you can't change. So your format will be fixed to that. And then will it be metric or imperial, like your CD values, or A2, 3, or 4, whatever the case might be. Okay. So then if we go to the template side of things, so on the template things, I think most of the times customers will only have certain views, and they will add a format to that as well. So remember, our format that will lock you to a certain sheet size. So if you use a format in a sheet, then your template is going to also force you to use a certain sheet size. So 9 out of 10 times our customers will have a template for the paper sizes as well. It's quite easy to set up and get that going, and users can just select whatever template they want to use. So templates, and then you start adding views. You can show dimensions, so dimensions that's coming from your part. You can create snap lines to clean up those dimensions a little bit. You can have notes in your templates. You can have specific symbols, tables, things like that in there as well. Okay, so format is basically your title block with your paper size, and then the template will pull information through from your Creo models, assemblies or parts or manufacturing assemblies, things like that. Okay. So that's the reason for the template. Okay, then just quickly a few slides on annotations and things like that. I think if you're in a manufacturing environment or in a product development environment, you know you need to place certain things. So I've things like dimension, model access, tolerances, data plans, and things like that. That's fairly standard. Just remember, when you show your annotations in your drawing and you pull them through from your Creo model, they are associative, okay? Which means you can change your part from the drawing. So if you look at that 36 overall dimension I have on the slide there, if I change that, my model is going to change as well. Everything is concentric. Okay. If you add dimensions, if it's a driven dimension, then it's not linked. Then it's linked to the entities in the drawing. Okay. So you can create additional dimensions in your drawing. You don't have to pull everything from the part. Right? One other thing that's important is the erase and delete. So there's a little bit of a difference there. So erase is just a temporary thing that you're not going to show that thing. Delete is it's going to remove it from the display, but not from the model. Okay, so if you're used to the 3D environment, erase is like hide. If you hide a part or something like that, and delete will remove it, but it's not removed from the model. And then show model dimensions. So if you pull dimensions through from the model, you can move it to different views. So if I set up my templates, what I'll normally do is I'll have my front view, and I will throw all my dimensions on that one view. Okay, so as soon as I start, that view is a mess. It's all the dimensions, its axis and things like that. But from there, it's a lot easier for me to just move the annotations and dimensions to a specific view, like a projection view or things like that, maybe to a 3D view. So that's something that I like. I like doing it like that, but you have to find your own method. You can have projection views in your template that will pull through dimensions as well. I just found that it's just more difficult to manage when you have to do two views. Rather get it into one bowl, and then from there you start picking out the things that you want and deleting or erasing information that's not necessary. Okay, then on large assemblies, so there's a few things that you can do to make your life a lot easier. There's two config settings, the one highlighted in red there that they've introduced in Creo 2. So if you're working with large complex assemblies, you can set those. That will make your life a little bit easier. Some general things that you can do, change your views to wireframe. Right? So I'm not saying when you print it, it should be in wireframe, but as you're working with this drawing, just make your views wireframe. Creo is going to be a lot more responsive. It's not going to be as hard on your machine or on your PC. And then as soon as you want to print them out or plot them, then you change them back, and you can print or plot and then change them back. And then also create separate drawings whenever possible. Okay, so I've seen some customers that will add a large assembly or a fairly sized assembly, let's say 100 parts. That's not really big, but it depends on the parts, how Creo will react or how your machine will manage that. So, and then from there, so they will add that one assembly in there, and then they will have like 30-40 sheets with the parts on that one drawing file. Okay, so you're sitting with one drawing file and a whole lot of sheets in that one file. Okay, so first thing that's going to happen, it's going to take up more memory than it needs to. So it's going to slow your machine down. My second thing that I've found before, if you lose that one file, your whole drawing deck is gone. Okay, so I don't like that. So I would have one drawing file with maybe 1 or 2 sheets on for my major assembly, the top level, and I will maybe break down 1 or 2 sub-assemblies from there, and then from there I will have a drawing for a sub-assembly as well, and from there I will have a drawing file for each of my components as well. Okay. So it sounds like there's a lot of work in there, but if your templates and formats and your config settings are properly set up, that whole thing is just a breeze. You just open up the correct template with the correct format. All the basic information is already there. If there's standard notes and things like that, that's already there. You don't have to go and redo that. You can copy from other drawings if you need to. So you can work through that process a lot quicker. If you are forced to work within a large assembly and there's certain parts that there's a lot of detail in, then you can blank those components out. Okay, so there's functionality in drawing to blank it out. So start up a drawing, blank that component out. It's going to save a little bit of your graphics resources, and then work with your drawing, do your dimensions, do your notes, do all the nitty-gritty stuff, and then as soon as you want to plot it, you can just unblank that, plot your drawing or save it to wherever you need to, and then work with it. Okay, and then my next slide is just some extra configuration options. If you're working with large assembly, or if you found that your drawings is not that responsive, so these are things that you can set. So quickly take a snapshot of this for the guys that's doing this live, and I'm just going to give a 2-second pause here for the guys that's going to watch the recording to pause that, take a snapshot, or write them down, or do whatever they need to do. So, okay, so let's jump into Creo and let's start working with a large, or with an assembly, and let's create some drawing stuff. Okay, so this is our assembly that we'll be working today. I think e.t.c has used this drill assembly on a number of demos before, and some training material as well. So it's not a big assembly, but it's got enough parts here to show what we need to show. Okay, so let's open up the drawing that was already there. Let's just look at that and just recap on what we have. So we've created this drawing with a certain template. So you can see there's some top view, front views, projection views, there's a detailed view. So if you have detailed views that you want to make part of your template, then your start parts should have that as well. So keep in mind, the templates will use information that's coming from your Creo models. So things like, let's see, so a part number, a drawing number, that's things that's going to be pulled through. Dates will be checked in, drawn by, you can fill in, and then there's just a general tolerance note that's part of the title block. So that's things that can be part of your format or your template. Okay, so let's quickly go and look at our fuel tank drawing. So just a basic drawing on a part. So with some information. So once again, we could have created this with a template fairly quickly, and then adding the information from Creo, or from the parts or assemblies. So just keep in mind that your part drawings and drawing assemblies will be different. For instance, Creo won't pull through part information into an assembly drawing. Okay, that just doesn't make sense. So if you bring in an assembly and you use the annotation feature, which is this show model annotations, then it's going to take whatever is the active component. So if it's a part, it's going to pull through the part stuff. If it's an assembly, it's going to pull through the assembly information. Okay, so let's quickly go back to our drill assembly, and let's just start off with a blank drawing. So, and let's look at the different methods that we can use. So I'm going to say new, I'm going to say drawing. So from Creo 6, we have this use drawing model name. So if you tick that, it's going to generate the model, or it's going to use the assembly. So I already have that, so I'm just going to untick this. Let's call this drawing number 2. Okay, and then we have this use default template. Okay, so for each template or default template, there's a config.pro setting that you can set. So if you're using one template, that's a great way of doing that. Use the default one. You know everybody's using that particular template. If you have more than one, you can just untick this, and as soon as you say OK, it's going to take you to the new drawing dialog box. So here you can specify what do you want to use. Do you want to use the template? If yes, then which one do you want to use? So you can see I've got a few different ones here. Okay, most of them it's default Creo ones. So you can use these as a base for your templates. So it's all saved in the Creo install directories. So you can open them up, copy them out of the install directories, and then set your folder to where you want them to be in Creo. And then you can pick and choose them as well. So use these default ones to copy tables, notes, certain parameters that you want to show, like dates, time, number of sheets. So all of these templates already have that information. So use that as a base and then build on top of that. Okay. If we don't want to use a template, we can use a format. So remember, your format is just your title block. So let's just do both of them now. I'm just going to go to my working directory. I'm just going to pick that one up. Okay, and then I want to show you the difference between a format and a template. So you'll notice it's going to ask me for some information. So these drawing numbers, if it wasn't specified with a parameter in the part, and the format's going to ask me for that information. So it's asking me for the drawing number. I give it a number. It's asking me who's drawn or who will be doing this drawing. So it's here, like that. Check by who's going to check it, and that's let's say admin. Who's going to approve it? Admin is going to approve it as well. And there's our drawing. Yeah, so you can see we've got our draw assembly in here, so we can add or we can change or hide some of the parts there or start creating our drawing. I just want to show you what happened in my title block. So it prompted me for the drawing, it prompted me who's going to check it, who's going to approve it, and then there was nothing for the dates in here. So dates will either be filled in manually by the user when it's released or when it's printed out, things like that. Scale was in, and the number of sheets is in. There's the drawing number, and then it pulled the part name from the Creo model. Okay, so that's a format. So let's do the same, but let's use a template. I'm going to say this is a draw 03. Can't use brackets. Let's use 03 underscore. I'm not going to use a default template. And we're going to say use, and let's go. I think I'm going to browse. I had some templates in here, drawing templates. Okay, so let's use the assembly. So you can see I've got two in here. So I've got one for assemblies on an A2 size, and then I've got one for parts on an A2 size. So we're working with an assembly. Say open. And let's see what happens. So it's asking me for the drawn by again. And then I didn't have the correct drawing view. So let's talk about this when it's popping up. So if you use a view when you specified your template or when you created your template, it's looking for certain views in your 3D model. Okay, so in this case, it's looking for a view name called 3D view. If it's not there, then it's not going to place that. So it's not there. So that's not going to happen. So let's quickly go in there and say open. If we go to our orient, you can see we don't have that there. So let's just say new. We call it whatever the template wanted, 3D view. And let's just check if that's going to work. Okay, the 3D view. So that should be something in my assembly start part that wasn't there. Okay, so let's just, I think I might need to recreate this. Yeah, let's recreate that. And we're going to go drawing. I'm going to leave it default. And I'm going to go use template. I'm going to browse again. And say OK. And you can notice the view is there. It's just my scale is horribly wrong now. So let's call that PV. And I've got some other missing stuff as well. Okay, so let's try a different template here. Just want to see what that's empty. Okay, so we might need to create one for this specific assembly. Okay, so let's do that. And then I'm going to show you how to do that as well. So first of all, drawing. Give your drawing template name. And then I'm going to say do not use template. And I'm going to say okay, and I'm going to remove my default model here. So if you don't do that, then you'll link a certain component to your template. I'm going to have a format for this. I'm going to use my A2 finish. And I'm just going to leave my values blank. Remember, we're building a template here. Okay, so we don't have any models in here. We don't have anything in here at the moment. So the first thing that you'll have to do is you have to tell Creo that you are in template mode now. So what you can do in this environment, if it's a drawing, you can go and you can create sketches like an AutoCAD thing. Don't do that. That's not the right way of doing it. So we're going to go into template mode, and then as soon as you're in template mode, you'll see the tabs changed a little bit. So you don't have as much things you can do in here. Okay, so first of all, what we want to do is we want to place a view. So it's going to be a general view because it's our first one. And then what do we want to show? So let's call this front. And I'm just going to say place view. And that's where I want my front view to place. Okay, so I can add as many things in here now. So what went wrong in that first one is I named this 3D view, and then the assembly didn't have it, so I had to add that. So even if something goes wrong, you can still use those templates for certain things. So and then we can set well, what should the model display be and things like that. So let's keep that default for now and say OK. And let's save this template. Save template name, OK, and let's do it in there. Okay, so let's open up a part for now. Let's just check, do we have everything we need in this one before I go and view, and we're going to look at the view manager. So we have a front in here. So let's create a new drawing with our template. Drawing, and OK. I'm going to use a template. I'm going to browse, drawing name, open, OK. And there's our front view. Okay, so fairly simple, straightforward, but that's just one view now. I could have added projection views and things like that, 3D views in the corner. So if you have a specific layout, build your templates around that, and then start using that. So remember, that's just the starting phase. You can go as far with that as you'd like. From here, you can go in and you can change your model display to wireframe. You can apply that. we can set our tangent lines. So all these lines where we have little rounds, how do we want to display that? Do we want that to be none? Okay, then your part's going to look like that. Okay, so remember what we've said when we've talked about the or during the slides, that wireframe is going to be the quickest. So I'm not sure if we'll have a proper feedback on this, but I'm going to try it with the GoToWebinar. So I'm just going to zoom out slightly and then refit this, and yeah, that's fairly quick. So let's change all of this to wireframe. It's not really. I'm just picking my views here. I'm going to set that's set to no hidden. I'm going to do wireframe. And if you zoom in and out, yeah, it's not really showing on the screen that great, but it will make the response in your drawing a lot better. So if you're zooming in and out to certain sections and you're working like that, and you've got hidden lines on, for instance, then that's going to be a nightmare. Let's see if we can change that maybe to hidden lines. That's the slowest one. You can already see it's thinking a little bit about that. Our response is still not that bad, but yeah, hidden lines will be the slowest. Because why? Because Creo now have, and it has to go in the background and think about all these lines. With wireframe, it's just showing everything. It doesn't have to think which ones need to be darker or in gray or in dashed lines or things like that. Okay. Let's go and add some annotations in here for the last bit of this. So let's change that back to wireframe, making it a little bit quicker. And let's add dimensions. So dimensions, fairly straightforward. Just want to move this view a little bit, and we just need to add. So we're going to click on the annotation tab and click add dimensions. Okay, so you'll use this one to get information from Creo. So you can see there's a whole lot of them in there, certain dimensions. There's no geometrical tolerances. There's certain notes, so tap holes, things like that. You can add in here. You can also see it doesn't make sense doing those in this particular assembly view. So you can add everything in there and then move them to the correct view. That's not what I want to do in this view. And if there's any datum axis that you would like to show, you can show that as well. Okay, so I'm going to cancel that. I just want to create a driven dimension in here. So I just want to pick some edges. So when you pick some edges, there's a few things that you can do. So you can select the entity, so lines, things like that. And then do you want it to be tangent to an arc? Do you want to select a midpoint of something? Do you want to select intersection points? Okay, or an imaginary line between two certain points. Okay, so 9 out of 10 times I just select entities. So I can pick, let's say, that edge of the handle there, and I have a dimension. Yeah. So while I'm placing that dimension, let's quickly talk about the config files, or the drawing detail file. That's the correct word. So how big these dimensions are, what arrow types they are, these witness lines, how far they are from certain edges and things like that. That's all set in the DTL file. Okay, so you will have a config.profile that will manage everything top level. Then you will have a drawing.dtl file for your formats. Okay, so how big should your text be in your formats when you create that? And then you'll have a DTL file for your drawings as well. So this is the one that we're going to look at now. So we're going to go drawing properties, we're going to change that. You can see we've got drawing text height. Okay, so that's something that you can set. You can also have multiple DTL files depending on your scenario that you want to. And these DTL files are saved with your drawing. So if you send a drawing to another Creo user, it's not going to take his DTL settings and apply it to the drawing because his text might be higher, his arrows might be different, and that might not suit your drawing views. So the DTL files are always saved with the drawing. Okay. So then there's another one that I wanted to show you here, right at the bottom. So, or maybe let's just quickly look at the categories. So you've got things to the views and the annotations. So you can look through those and you can set them. How do you want to handle cross sections? So that section will be when you have welding symbols and things like that. How do you want to handle that cross section? Things like how solid showed in a view, your dimension settings. So you can set all of that, get a nice company standard going, and all your drawings will be set with the same standard. And there's repeat regions, bill of materials. We're getting to that now as well. How do you want to control layers? And here's tolerances. So this is the one that I wanted to show. So a lot of customers use tolerances in their drawings. For some reason, the default is set to no. So if you add a dimension and you want to create the tolerance, it's normally grayed out. This is the setting that you have to set. Okay, so get into that DTL file, save it out, tell the administrator we need to change our drawing DTL file, the default one, to show tolerances. I don't want to go and set that setting each time I create a drawing. Yeah, so that's the drawing DTL file. Okay, so let's quickly add a note as well in here. So the notes, so there's a few notes that you can add. So unattached note. So this is the same for your template and in the drawing, so it's the same functionality. So if you create an unattached note, so that's just a note somewhere and you type in some information. The other one is the one with a leader that I use a lot, or an item, or at a specific coordinate. So leader, it's going to show there you can type in whatever you need to type in. Okay. So let's just quickly go into the notes. So there's a few things that you can change. And I think from Creo 4, maybe even 3, they changed this whole dashboard layout. Okay, previous versions had the menu manager. It might even be Creo 2 for what that matters. But this is a lot easier to manage and to change your text. So you can underline things, you can change the font. Once again, all these default settings are driven from the drawing DTL file. So you can set that, then you don't have to go through this all the time. Okay. One other great thing that I wanted to show you is note from file. So when I use this a lot, I will steal notes from a drawing that I've done before, and now my manager tells me, okay, well, you had that note on this drawing, we need to put it on this one as well. Okay, and you can't remember the details, so just open up that drawing. It's a normal text file that you can create or save somewhere, and you just bring that in again. Okay, so reuse that information. I think that's key to everything. What was the other one in the notes that I wanted to show? No, I think that's it. That was the font and the note from file. Okay, and then if we go to the next one, symbols, also the same thing. So you can have custom symbols that you can build and then use them again. We don't want to get too much into that now, but what I wanted to show you is the symbol from palette. Okay, so you can add certain symbols that you use a lot. You can add that to the palette and then you can reuse them. Place them wherever you need to, place as many as you like. So quick and easy once that is set up. Okay. What I wanted to show, it is in here, but if you go to browse and you go to your system symbols, so these are symbols that's installed once again with Creo. You can use them, you can copy them out of the installation folder, put them in a separate space. If you upgrade Creo or something like that, they're not affected. Maybe world symbols. Let's go add a world symbol. Let's add a fillet. And then I just want to show you that how these symbols are built. So you can define where the arrow side should be. So if you say beneath, that's going to update like that. You can add all the information just on that one symbol. Okay. So building this symbol or a symbol that can do all of this is a time-consuming thing. We help customers with specific symbols that they want, and that's not part of the Creo standards. So we can build all of this information into a specific symbol that you'll need, but the default ones are fairly good, and you can just reuse them and place them as needed. Hopefully you're not going to drill or weld on a drill bit. Just okay on that. So that's symbols. So that's the custom symbols. But if you browse, you can access the system things that you need to add. Okay, and we are running a little bit out of time, so I'm just quickly going to talk about the last thing that I want to show you that can make your life a lot easier, especially specifically in assembly drawings, is the tables. Okay, so we use repeat regions to build our tables, but also I think from Creo 2, e.t.c added these quick tables in here. So if you're using manufacturing assemblies with NC information, all those operations and things that's in there, there's tables that's already built for that. We have tables that's linked to cabling if you use cabling, and then we have the diagrams as well, and then where's the assembly ones? That's the one. So here's the assembly one. So we've built one in this drawing, but if I want to add another one, I can just add that in there. Okay. So by default, it used the information from my assembly structure. It created the bill of material, but obviously there wasn't descriptions and things like that in here. So I can go and I can add information, a certain parameter into that repeat region. Okay. So now you're going to ask me, so how do we do that? Or how do we create that repeat region? So let's delete this quickly and let's build one. So first thing that you'll need to start up is you need to create some sort of table with certain columns. So I've got that in there, and then you need to type in what those columns or rows would be. And I'm just going to say name, and I'm going to say quantity, something like that. Okay. So my table is gonna grow to the top. You can do it to the bottom or however you want to do that. And then I'm gonna say, well, I need to create a repeat region, and I'm just gonna go add, and then I'm just gonna create a simple one. So you can see here we still have that menu manager, and you just pick where you want that. So from the one side to the other side, If you want to check that, you can select switch symbols, and that's going to show you where that repeat region is. If we look at our one that was created over here, so you can see that's repeat index, that's the assembly member name, the assembly member type, and the repeat quantity. So we want to do that the same way here. So as soon as you double click on that, you're going to have this report symbol dialog box. So where do you want to find that information? So for indexing, we just want to go to repeat and we say index. If we want the name of the component, we double click on that. We say assembly. Do I want the assembly name or do I want the members name? So I want the members and then I want that name. So look at all the other parameters or things that you can do in here. Okay, so I just want that, and then the last one would be the repeat and the quantity. Okay, so let's switch symbols again. Right, that's going to the top. Okay, so but why is my quantity not there? Okay, so I need to change something. So I've got bolt, the same bolt I've got in here. So that's why there's no quantities. So depending on your settings for your table, that will determine what information is shown in there. Okay, so let's go repeat region again, and then say I want to change the attributes or the flat. No, it is attributes. I want to change the attributes for this table, and then how do I want to change that? So I don't want no duplicates. And let's just change that for now. We can come back and change recursive and things like that as well. Okay, and there we go now. So now we can see some information in there. So let's just change this with a little bit, like that, maybe 15. Here we go. Okay, so now you can see now it grouped the number of bolts and it's giving me a quantity as well. So let's go back to repeat region and let's go attributes again. And let's say I want that to be recursive. That's giving everything now. Maybe not great. Use that, no duplicate per level. And let's change that back to no duplicates. And do we want it flat? Let's say flat. Let's see what's going to happen. There we go. That's what we want. Okay, so nice compact bill of materials. So I guess my point would be that you can have many table files as well, and you can save them out as well. So if I want to use this table in another drawing, it's got the information that I want. I don't want to go and recreate things. As soon as you highlight the table, the save table is available. So I can save that to a table folder, and I can reuse that wherever I want to. Once again, there's a config setting to set that folder for you. So every user can go and grab a certain standard of tables. So that's the save and the table from file. So let's add. So let's say our drawing was like this. I need to go and add a bill of material in here. So you say table from file, go to the folder, and then pick whatever table you need, and it's going to add it in here. Okay, so maybe that's not the right one. We can add more if we need to. I can't remember which one I picked. Let's use. That's even a longer one. Okay, but I guess you get the point. So you can add as many tables as you like. Okay, so I think that's the basics that I try to cover in Creo. Try to remember when you create your drawings, try to remember those 3 columns that I've showed, where your templates are, where you create or start the initiation process, and then you start creating your drawings. So If you do a lot of things in the setup and the planning, then the creation will be a lot easier. Okay. Then when you get into the creation, your first step is lay out things, add models, create your views if you don't use a template, things like that. And then start with the annotation, dimensions, symbols, things like that can make your life a lot easier. Okay, so that's what I wanted to show. I'm going to give you guys about 2 or 3 minutes to get some questions in. Did I show my contact details? So there's my contact details. If you, let's put it up again. If you need to get any information or if you have any questions, you can just drop me a mail. I'll try to answer that. If I can't, then I'll get the right person involved. You can also use our support email, and that's on our website as well, on boundarysys.com. So you can visit there, log a ticket there, and then that will be filtered through to the correct person. Okay, so I'm going to mute myself for a minute or so, get some questions in if you have questions. Otherwise, just drop me a mail. Okay, so there's no questions coming in. I'm sure you guys are going to send me some emails then. Thank you for joining us today and hope to see you again soon. Thank you.